It's after the posted hour of 7 o'clock, so I call the meeting to order. And as we always do, let's stand and cite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So our first order of business tonight is we have a public hearing for the tax classification for determination of the residential factor for tax rates. So could I have a motion to open a public hearing, please?
Make a motion to open the tax classification public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. We're now in a public hearing. So, Dennis, I think, is it you? Oh, okay. Jack, it's you, I guess. Sorry. My apologies, Jack.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Evening. As always, it's a pleasure. Okay.
Thank you.
With me are the other two members of the board, Bob Bushway and Ed O'Neill, and everybody knows Dennis, our Director of Assessing. The purpose of this hearing tonight is to give you the information on a recommendation so that you can determine the residential factor, if you want to have a residential factor, to shift some of the tax burden from residential property owners to the commercial property owners. And what I'd like to try to do, I think everybody has this sheet right here, a little bit of background, because one of the questions people ask is, how do you determine what I pay in taxes? And really what it is, it's kind of, it's simple at the outset. Your annual tax bill is just the tax rate times whatever your evaluation is in thousands, okay? How do you determine the individual property assessment? That's something that the Board of Assessors do, all right? It's determined as of January 1st in the previous fiscal year. There's some exceptions for new construction. We don't go out every year and visit every property. It's just physically impossible to do that. So we do a sales analysis, a very thorough sales analysis, and that's overseen by the Department of Revenue, who has to certify the values that we come up with. How do we determine the residential tax rate? There are three elements to that tax rate determined by three different independent elected bodies. Planned expenditures, that's decided by town meeting or the voters if it's an override. Total assessed valuation, that's determined by the Board of Assessors. And then the residential factor, which is determined by yourselves, the Board of Selectmen. And that's what tonight is all about, is for you to decide what you want to do for a residential factor, okay? There's some summary information at the bottom here. Assuming that you were to continue with the same residential factor of 1.275, what the residential tax rate would be for 2020 versus 2019, both from the residential and commercial, and then what that impact would be on the tax rate. I believe everybody also got this large packet that Dennis provided to you a couple weeks ago. Some of you have actually come in and talked to him, had some questions. And I could, if you want to, I'll be happy to go through line by line every page. I don't think we have enough time to do it tonight, so I'm just going to pick some highlights, okay? And then we'll get the recommendation and then answer any questions that you have. On page 2, the numbers are down in the bottom right-hand corner of each page. Explains what the residential factor is and its impact. So if you had a single tax rate, for example, for this year, it would be $15.64. With maintaining the current shift of 1.275, it's going to be $14.99. That results for the average value home in Walpole of $346 less for taxes. One of the questions that often comes up, and is an important question, is, well, how do we stand in terms of residential property versus commercial, industrial, and personal property in terms of total valuations? And on page 3, it has that. What you can see on the right-hand side, we have about 87% of the property values in Walpole are residential. The remainder, 13%, is for all the commercial, industrial, and personal property. We're very, very heavily skewed in Walpole towards residential property. Okay. On page 5, a little bit of a discussion on the levy. The levy limit is how much we can raise it via taxation. And the levy in Walpole for 2020 is the maximum allowable levy is $660,094, right up at the top there. Okay? The levy, how that levy limit is calculated is very simple. It's what we paid, what we had in whatever the levy was last year, plus 2.5%, plus new growth, plus any overrides that may have been voted in, okay? And on the next page, on page 6, it shows how you could go ahead and calculate it, and we actually submit this to the state, okay? The levy limit, plus the 2.5%, plus new growth, plus any override, and that's year after year after year. There's no difference in it, and it's been that way for 40 years. Okay. Continuing on, one of the questions that comes up often is about new growth. So on page 8, we have the new growth numbers. New growth for fiscal 2020 was a little over $1.5 million. New growth is something that's something we monitor carefully during the year. We work with Jimmy starting right at the beginning of the budget planning year with a number, and we adjust that regularly throughout the year because we're looking at what happens from construction and for the kinds of things that would be calculated into the new growth number. But that new growth number is not really known, finalized, until it's certified by the state, which was about a month or so ago. So it's a number that changes as we go throughout the year. It's broken down. Residential properties accounted for about $834,000 and change in tax dollars. Commercial was $156,000, and personal property was $539,000. That's the components that went into new growth. Page 13, I think this is probably one of the more interesting ones and one of the more important ones. What would be the example of the shifts on single-family properties? And at the current shift of 1.275, the difference in taxes from last year to this year is $258. The impact on commercial and industrial is on the page 15. All right. For commercial, at the current shift, it's $688. That's what the tax bill is going to go up. And for industrial, it's $517. One of the reasons that it goes up a lot more on the industrial and commercial versus the residential is simply because of the difference in mix, okay? $1 saved by a residential taxpayer, it's gonna cost the commercial and industrial a lot more because that's spread over a much smaller base. It's actually a weighted reciprocal, if you want to get into the math. And then finally, one of the questions that often comes up is who are the largest taxpayers? So on page 20, we've listed them out for you. Number 1 in Walpole is N-Star. Okay. And so that's basically it. The board, we have talked of this over, and we're going to recommend to you that you make no change in the current value of the 1.275. Your vote actually won't be for the 1.275, it'll be the residential factor. So when you make that decision, we can take that off the table.
Thanks, Jack. Any questions for Jack from the board before we open up to public comment?
I just say I appreciate the packet. I enjoy getting it ahead of time and being able to go through it, and it was good, it's helpful. I've been through this a few times, so I kind of know what to expect, but it was a nice packet for us to read through. Thanks.
Dennis put a lot of time and effort into it, so.
Other comments or questions?
I completely agree with Mark. Exactly what he said.
Okay, I'll open it up to the public. Any comments from the public on this topic? Andrew, come on in.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Flowers. I'm the Vice Chair of the Finance Committee. I just wanted to start by saying thank you to Dennis Fliss and the entire Board of Assessors. Bob, Ed, Jack have done a great job. I've really, as always, learned a lot from this packet, as last year. So I guess I wanted to speak because I believe that this is a really important meeting, and it's almost It's almost a shame that the public doesn't, have more attention and awareness of this meeting, because I feel like it's really important. I'm not here to suggest anything different than what Jack just suggested. Go with his recommendations. My goal here is to just open a conversation about tax relief, targeted tax relief, because as you all know, there are some residents of Walpole who legitimately feel that the taxes are a burden for them. So how can we go about that? And again, these are the experts, so I would encourage Jack and Dennis and those on the board, please correct me if I'm wrong here. But the way I think about it, there's basically three ways. We can, one, increase tax relief programs. This is something, again, the Board of Assessors has done a great job with. At town meeting has kind of maximized the tax relief programs that are available to us by state law. That's the first option. The second option is the split rate, right? Shifting the burden more towards the commercial, industrial, personal property and away from residential. As Jack said, the Board of Assessors is recommending to keep the shift the same. I agree with that. I don't think that businesses in town need more of a tax burden, especially when we want to keep building up that tax base. But the third area, and this is in the packet, and I've had conversations about this option with several of you, the third option for targeted tax relief is a residential exemption. Now, without getting too in the weeds here, I want to be clear, I'm not arguing for a residential exemption. My ask of you tonight is to begin the process to concretely understand how it would play out if Walpole were to adopt it in a year from now. So really, I'm aware that this is a year-long process. My specific ask, and Dennis, correct me if I'm wrong, I met with Dennis on Friday, and we've met pretty much every year the last few years to talk about this issue. My specific ask is to get more resources for the assessor's office to study. And if you look on page 32 of your packet, we need to study the full implications of the residential exemption. And to do that, if you look on page 32, there are estimates for the non-owner occupied homes in Walpole. And these are estimates because it's not exactly clear, if I understand correctly, that residents, whether they're living in a condo or a single-family home that they own, or whether they're renters of a single-family home or whatnot. So I talked to Dennis, and Dennis is not endorsing this idea, is not endorsing my suggestion, but that we study this further, and that would entail mailings. Just a simple, small budget increase in this current fiscal year that the Finance Committee can do starting early next calendar year is increase the assessor's office budget by a few $1,000s, conduct some mailings to get a concrete understanding of where are the owner-occupied properties and where are the non-owner-occupied properties. This enables you, the select board, to make a really smart decision a year from now about whether you should entertain a residential exemption. I'm not going to get into the details about whether we should do it or not. The essence of it, to me, is this debate of you're shifting the burden of the residential taxes away from the lower and moderately assessed homes to the second homes, vacation homes, apartments, and higher assessed homes. And this could provide real concrete tax relief to people who are struggling in town without entertaining a debate about how much taxes we should be raising. This does not change the total pie of taxes, the levy limit. It's just changing how it's distributed. So to have a concrete understanding of this, I suggest we begin a dialogue over the next year. I'm willing to work on behalf of the Finance Committee as Vice Chair to try to advocate for more resources for the Assessor's Office to study this, because I think it could potentially have a good impact. The one thing I am worried about if we were to do this is that it could potentially increase rents for renters in apartments. But the reason I'm suggesting we do it now is it's fortuitous that we have all these new apartments coming online. So our pool of non-owner occupied housing is about to grow a lot to distribute that burden of a residential exemption more evenly. So that's all I'm asking for tonight is just entertain a conversation about a residential exemption over the next year. But otherwise, thank you for all the work that Dennis and the assessors does. And please, I think their recommendations are very solid tonight.
Great. Andrew, thanks for coming in and offering your comments. Any questions for Andrew before he?
I just have one question. What about the fundamental fairness question about Because essentially, in order to lower the taxes on some, you have to raise taxes on the others. And how do you resolve that?
It's a great question. So when economists study whether taxes are more of a burden on, lower income folks or higher income folks, they can kind of rank different taxes according to their progressivity or regressivity. And you can think of income taxes or even capital gains taxes as being progressive if the tax structure allows it. What are the more regressive taxes? Well, sales taxes are thought by economists to be among the most regressive, but even more regressive than sales taxes are property taxes. So it's a great point to say, okay, are we going to shift the burden towards higher assessed homes by residential exemption? In my mind, again, in the abstract, we have to study this more. That's not such a bad thing. Why? Because property taxes are already pretty regressive compared to other taxes.
Isn't there a more fundamental, easier way to lower taxes, and that is to spend less?
Well, spending less also entails investing less in the town. And so we can entertain a debate about the total level, the total size of the pie. I think that debate, though,
Is the fundamental debate.
that debate, it is a fundamental debate, but it's separate from this debate, right? So you can disagree with someone on how high the levy limit should be, or whether we should quote tax to the max, raise it by 2.5%. You can disagree about specific spending priorities and still be on board with providing targeted tax relief to folks who are struggling. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, let's kind of split this debate between how much we should be spending and how we can provide targeted tax relief. Because you can actually have that as separate debates, and reasonable people may disagree.
So by your argument, the only people who are struggling are the people who are in homes that are of lower value?
Well, no, I didn't say that. I don't think those are the only people who are struggling.
Because the people who are struggling, who are above the median, will actually have their taxes increased, is that correct?
Under a residential exemption, if they're an owner-occupied home above the break-even point, yes. Now, I don't shed too many tears about someone who's in $1 million home who is gonna see their taxes go up modestly. If it means someone who is a retiree who's 85, who paid off their home decades ago and it's worth $300,000, it's the only asset they have, and we're providing them with hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of tax relief, that matters more to me.
But we don't know that that's how it's gonna happen.
Exactly, but that's why we need to study this. So again, I'm not trying to jump the gun on this debate. This is not going to be decided in one night. This is a year-long process. So let's just start and have concrete data to
I
have a
100%
conversation.
agree there needs to be tax relief. I agree with that concept.
So what I think we should do now is move on, and I think, Andrew, you've made an interesting suggestion. Jim, I think we should probably go take a look at it. I don't know if the Jack and Dennis, you guys.
My initial thoughts is, I've talked to Dennis briefly about this over the last few years. I know that, I don't think the assessors department at this time have the resources to do it. We likely needed some type of a capital request for this.
Gotcha.
We probably need to shop around and see the cost to explore this. I just texted Jody and Marilyn, and roughly, I don't know if we need to do 1 or 2 townwide mailings, but I know for the warrant booklets that go out, that cost between $7,500 and $8,500 a year, so we need to adjust their budget accordingly. So there's steps that, if the board wants to pursue this, we can work with the assessors and plan for it financially and make sure the resources are there.
Yeah, I think we should, I'm not suggesting go spend that money right now. What I'm saying is, let's get together a plan of attack. There must be a way to evaluate this, even without a townwide mailing, to get a sense for what it might look like. You could model it a little bit and see what it might look like. I'd be interested in hearing what it could look like under certain circumstances. So, look, why don't we just agree that we'll take that away just to move us on tonight. And Andrew, again, thanks for bringing that idea forward.
Thank you, and thank the Board of Assessors.
Hey, Jim, can I make one comment?
Yeah, sure, Mark.
So in addition to just the straight residential exemption idea, I'd also like to find out if we could do something that's more targeted, like with the we just raised the cap on, at town meeting, on the disabled and some of those other categories. Is there anything we can do specifically for people who are in their home, retired, on fixed income, a little more in a targeted fashion, rather than just a general blanket residential exemption. And I don't know if other towns are doing anything that's creative, but it would be nice to know, do any other towns have anything that isn't quite all the way to a residential exemption, but helps targeted groups of people that may be helped?
Good evening. My name is Dennis Fliss, Director of Assessing. Currently, there's different legislations up on the Hill to, there's numerous bills, as a matter of fact, up on the Hill that have been filed for like to create some sort of local circuit breaker for exemptions. In general, these bills would allow local communities at their option to offer additional exemptions to seniors, typically based on the eligibility for the circuit breaker. Talking to the assessor's legislative agent, Charlie Stefanini, I think his name is, he stressed that there's a proliferation of bills up there, and he feels that some version of a statewide local option circuit breaker will emerge from the session this year. So right now, the Massachusetts Assessors Association has taken a wait-and-see attitude because they think something's coming down the road in which it will be a local option to decide what it would be.
Great, thanks for the update. And just, I'd just like us to sort of keep in mind, is there another hybrid or another option that may help the most needy people?
Like in the town of Walpole and many towns, that they've maxed out all the statutory exemptions that were available. I think, we've doubled the exemption. We've increased eligibility, financial and age-wise, and it's like I said, I think a lot of cities and towns have reached that max, and they're trying to find some way through a local option. Each town, if they want to address it, they could. So we'll keep you tuned to where to look before, how the bill's going.
Okay, thanks.
Nancy?
So I think it's a great idea for us to start planning to try to be able to put this together. But also in the meantime, are there other towns that have done it? So like, could we just find some information of what they've done, and maybe it will help us spend a little bit less, that we can, use those as ideas?
There are other towns that did it. We actually, last year, we looked into it. Dennis and I were both hoping that the legislation would be a much further along, so it would be more of that would allow local communities for an option in, instead of having to create our own legislation, petition the legislature. So I'm hoping that maybe in the next month or two, Dennis's association is going to be a little bit further along. If not, we've already gone as far as to having town council kind of start to draft the warrant article that would be necessary to petition the legislature.
Thanks. Jack?
One of the things just to kind of keep in mind of the residential exemption, right now we have a list of 16 communities that have adopted the residential exemption. They all tend to be cities that have a lot of rental properties, or they're towns down the Cape that have a lot of vacation homes.
Makes sense.
So the impact is not on the high-end residents that live there. The impact is on the high-end the high-end homes that are not non-owner occupied. So it's not a widespread program, and it's kind of targeted towards specific kinds of communities. Certainly worth a study if you'd like to go down that road, but Walpole doesn't kind of fit into that category of a large city or town or something that has a lot of vacation properties.
Got it. Thanks, Jack. Are there any other public comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. We're now out of the public hearing.
I'll
And
make a motion to adopt a shift of, I need help every year with this.
If you look at page 12,
Right.
about a third of the way down, the current rate is the 1.275.
Okay, so,
You're going to actually vote to adopt the residential factor in the second column.
and is it 0.958700? Is it? Oh my gosh.
There you go.
All right, good. So here I go. I'd already written it down, and I was hoping. I'll make a motion to adopt the shift of 1.275 with a residential factor of 0.958700 for fiscal year 2020.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
10 years is a charm.
Being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Jack, Dennis, team, thank you. Really well done. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
This is what they voted. Just get it signed on that page.
See, I written it in myself, but I got it right.
Anywhere?
10 years.
Anywhere?
I don't care.
Okay.
Just sign it.
Sure.
We've got our next,
Looks like there's one more motion to be made.
yeah, there is, that's.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, I'll make a motion to authorize the town administrator, Jim Johnson, to submit on behalf of the Board of, the Select Board on the LA5 on the state gateway system.
I'll second that.
If that's what we're.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we've got an award of an RFP and contract 2020-11 personal property reval.
I'll make a motion to award the RFP contract 2020-11 to Real Estate Research Consultants, Inc., North Andover, Mass., for the total project cost for FY '21 of $47,375.
Any discussion? Jim, anything? No? Okay.
No, this was just funds that were appropriated at the past town meeting, and helps the assessors get their job done.
Great, thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you. All right, it's now at 7:30. Our next appointment is with our Health Director, Robin Chappell. Robin, would you come on up here? We, as a board, from time to time, get to have a kind of a fun thing, and this is one of those, to recognize Robin on 34 years of work here in the town in several capacities, but mostly as the health director. And we just thought it would be cool to have you come on in and just send you off properly, and thank you for everything that you've done for the town over all those years, Robin. So maybe I'd just ask you to offer a couple of reflections, and then we've got a little certificate I want to read for you. Okay?
I want to say that it's been a privilege and an honor to work for the residents of Walpole, and I want to thank you for letting me work on things that I thought was really, really important, and I hope made a difference in people's lives. So.
Well, I can assure you they did, and they were really, really important, and there were a number of them over 34 years. So thank you, and let me just take a moment to read our certificate of appreciation from the board. So this is to Robin Chappell. On the occasion of your retirement and on behalf of the town of Walpole, the Select Board would like to recognize you and offer our gratitude for 34 years of amazing service to the town. Your dedication, professionalism, and expertise has set the standard for others to emulate. We will miss you.
I'll miss everybody.
Your many accomplishments during your time in Walpole are too numerous to list. There is one, however, that stands out, which is your oversight of the Superfund site on South Street. While there were many people involved over the years, you have been the constant during the 20-year effort to revitalize this highly contaminated parcel. Today, on what was once a blighted and dangerous former industrial site, now proudly stand our new police station and senior center that are the envy of surrounding towns. We wish you the very best as you move to the next chapter of your life. You've left a lasting mark on Walpole, and for that we thank you. Congratulations on your well-deserved retirement, Robin. And that's signed by the board.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well deserved, Robin. Thank you.
Robin, here you go. Thank you.
very, very
Okay.
much.
Okay. That was cool. All right, let's see, are we at, we're not, do I have to actually wait for 7:40, or can I move ahead with the?
You can move ahead.
I can
It's
move
not a
ahead,
public
okay.
hearing, as long as she's
Okay,
here.
so we've got a 7:40 vote of change of manager from the Patriot Tavern to Pamela Willis. So, folks from Patriot Tavern are here, I can see. Come on up.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Mrs. Johnson, Ms. Berube. Attorney James Gully for Patriot Tavern, Inc. Before the board tonight is our petition for a change of manager. If I could introduce Ms. Pamela Willis, our proposed manager, to present to you this evening. Ms. Willis comes to us with a great amount of experience, having been employed at Patriot Tavern, Inc. since 2016, and a great deal of time prior to that with Bertucci's. We believe she's going to be a great asset to our establishment.
Great. Any questions from the board? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the change of manager for Patriot Tavern, Inc. to Pamela Willis.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Further discussion being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0. Pamela, I'd give you a moment to just introduce yourself if you'd like, and welcome you to the position at the tavern, and we'll see you there.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Pam, I live in Norwood, but we're excited to take over. It's employees that have been there the 3 years. There's 3 of us that are mainly going to be running the restaurant, but we're all kind of a group effort to take it to another level. So we appreciate any support that you could give us
Wonderful.
in the
Well,
town. Thank you so much.
It's exciting. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. Yeah.
The attorney made it look easy because everything was in order, so just.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Thank you.
Good luck. Good night.
Okay, and then we have a vote for the change of officer and change of beneficial interest for the 99 restaurant. I don't think we have anyone here for the 99, or maybe we do? No? This one here, as I understand it, is again one of those corporate actions, and I believe we've been advised by the ABCC to go ahead and approve this, and so I think it's just a routine vote. Any questions on that?
No.
Discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the change of officers and change of beneficial interest for the 99 restaurant.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0. And then we have next a vote on the update of the Zoning Board of Appeals fee schedule for comprehensive permits. So Stephanie, come on up.
Finally up here before you guys.
Everyone.
Finally.
Ashley, she's our new.
Good to meet you all. Ashley Clark, Director of Community Development. Yeah, so I was looking at the fees that we have. It looks like the last time they were updated was in 2004. People were still singing "Who Let the Dogs Out." So I'm putting a request before you to update them so they're more in line with the many hours staff spends on these comprehensive projects. Happy to answer any questions you might have. I can go over what is. So this is just for 40B applications. I think we also need to look at what's going on with the 48 applications, but given the kind of things that are in the pipeline, I wanted to be ready for when those do, if those do come in. So right now, we do a flat fee of $2,500, which doesn't take into consideration the size of the project. Generally, the larger the project, the more kind of resources go into reviewing it. So we're recommending, and this has all been vetted with our town council, so they're good with that. We're recommending a flat fee of $5,000 for limited dividend organizations, and then a $200 per market rate unit fee on top of that. For the nonprofit organizations, we're recommending a $2,500 base fee, which is what it's currently at, and then $200 per market rate unit.
Any questions for Ashley? Nancy?
No, I just appreciate that you jumped in and you're in front of us already with the recommended change and updating, and that you gave us, you know, the examples of other towns, so thank you,
Great, thank you.
and nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
I'm good. Good, everyone good? Okay, take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed ZBA fee schedule updated as presented in 11-23.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0. Ashley, thanks very much.
Thank
Nice
you.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I missing it, or do we not have open forum on the agenda tonight?
Not on there. No, it's not on there.
So I'm gonna make an executive decision here and just declare that it's open forum. Is there anybody here who would like to speak at open forum? Okay, that solves that. So on to new business. So we've got a series of votes here to make.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for a one-day all alcohol license for Knights of Columbus for 12/6/19.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for a one-day all alcohol license for the Knights of Columbus for, wait, why don't I not have that?
11:20.
For 11/24/19.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0.
I will make a motion to approve the request for the Walpole Footlighters for a one-day wine and malt license on 12/14/19.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0.
I will make a motion to approve the holiday display request for the Walpole Chamber to place the manger on the town common.
I'll second that.
Discussion, being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0.
I'll make a motion to open the spring meeting warrant and close it on January 21st, 2020.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0.
I'll make a motion to accept the selectmen's meeting schedule. What is it? What's the number of it on our thing here?
11:29.
11/29, thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0.
And I will make a motion to ratify the appointment of the town administrator for Justin Mantra as tree warden.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0.
I'll make a motion to ratify the appointment of the town administrator for Carl Baldoff as town engineer.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0.
I'll make a motion to ratify the appointment of the town administrator for Melissa Ranieri as health director.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for the fire chief to declare fire engine 4 as surplus.
I'll second that.
I wanted to pause on that one for just a second.
There's an additional language for that one, to authorize the town administrator to sign the necessary paperwork to enter into an agreement. The city of New Bedford essentially wants to take this truck from us. They're willing to pay more than what we would get as a trade-in. So town council's gone ahead and working on it. And we have to do an intermunicipal agreement. So I'd ask the Board of Selectmen to authorize me to sign that intermunicipal agreement.
Exactly like that.
Okay.
We have
Added to my motion.
a motion and a second. Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0-0.
And I appreciate that we found a way to get a little bit more out of,
You know me.
yeah.
The, that truck was an interesting situation, because we purchased it back in 1997. I happened to be on the board at the time. It's sometimes a benefit to being the old guy around here, I guess. I remember some of these things. And Ken Erickson was our fire chief at the time, and it was our first new engine in quite a while that we had purchased. And frankly, we've made a lot of progress with the fire department in the ensuing 20 years or so, 22 years, and have a truly professional fire department, a brand-new fire station, and it all kind of started back with Ken and that fire engine. I remember actually going with Ken Erickson for a test drive in the new truck. That's what a big deal it was. And and here we are now, 22 years later, declaring it surplus. So, anyway, little history.
Does that mean you want to bid on the truck, Jim?
Yeah, you wanna, or you wanna drive it down to New
I
Bedford.
might drive it down to New Bedford, but I'm not gonna bid on it.
We can arrange that.
Won't fit in my garage. Okay,
Administrators.
consent agenda, we got one item there.
I'll make a motion to accept a donation to the Veteran Services Gift Account for $500 from AFSCME 1957.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
5-0-0.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Jim, to the town administrator's
Sure,
report.
just a few items I just passed out. Budget process. I mentioned last week that we've started the FY21 budget process. Department heads are supposed to have all their budgets entered into the system by December 6th, and that's when I start working with Jody, Marilyn, Dennis on balancing the budget. Last year, we started something that was a little bit different, running the revenue sources and amounts by the Board of Selectmen to make sure you're comfortable with them. I'd like to do that again this year when it's before I finalize the budget message and present it. Is the board fine with that? Okay.
Sure.
I'm good with that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Selectmen Select Board vote update. There's still some confusion whether or not you're still the Board of Selectmen. Technically, you are still the Board of Selectmen until the charter amendment takes effect. So going forward, all formal documents will still say Board of Selectmen, but if the board would like to be called the Select Board, we can do that going forward, your call. It's hard for me to change it, but I'll get used to it eventually. I think all of us will eventually. So we started working with Copeland and Page, going forward with that, and I'm hoping that we will have some language ready for the board to consider in December to get the legislative process going. I know John Rogers and Lou Kafka, Paul McMurtry, and Sean Dooley have already started the work at the representative side, and I know the senator is ready to go also. So just an update if people ask you where we're at with that. Summer Street Cedar Edge project. Matt, I was confused a bit earlier last week because we've already received a project waiver request list from Cedar's Edge for that project. I was confused because thought they were still waiting for the approval from Mass Housing. They're just staying ahead of the curve on this one. They haven't been approved by Mass Housing yet. I've been advised on Friday it was still under staff review, so just an update. It's still being reviewed. We haven't gotten the official word on that one. And just Town Hall will be closed Thanksgiving and next Friday afterwards, keeping with our usual practice. So that's it. Any questions?
I know there's a water main break. Was it yesterday?
Yes.
How did they do on that? Is that all squared away, or are they still?
I believe they've, the temporary replacements was completed. I don't think it's final yet.
Okay.
I can check.
What is that? Because my water pressure went down.
I feel like it was right off of Main Street. I'll find out for
I
you.
was just curious. My water pressure came back, so.
I think you were on the fringe of that problem, yeah. It affected a lot of people.
I went looking for leaks. around
That's
the
good, Jim.
house.
I was just curious, so if they.
And that's it.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And we have no minutes to approve this week, so we're now going to enter executive session in order to review and possibly vote on executive session minutes. So I am going to follow our normal pattern with the declaration. I hereby declare that under GL Chapter 30A, exemption number 7, the purpose of the executive session will be to review and discuss the executive session minutes of August 6, 2019. That a discussion of the foregoing in open session could compromise the purpose of the executive session, and that the board will return to open session at the conclusion of the executive session to vote the minutes.
I'll second that.
I actually think we need to actually have the actual Board of Selectmen motion. So, right at the bottom.
I make a motion that the Board of Selectmen go into executive session for the purpose and reason declared by the board's chairman. Roll call vote.
David?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Jim, yes. Ben?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Okay, we're now in executive session, so we're going to shut down for a little bit here. We will come back into open session to vote the minute. Thanks, Patrick. So we're back out of executive session, having had our discussion around the minutes of August 6th. We're going to now take a vote on the minutes as approved or not as approved, because they haven't been approved yet, but as discussed in executive session. We are also going to take a vote on releasing what will be redacted minutes based on advice from town council. And we are going to release a memo from town council that addresses, how we thought about the entirety of the minutes and the redactions and everything that's involved. So, could I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 6th executive session?
So moved.
Motion and a second there will be no further discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
400.
I'm sorry, 400. Good counting.
Thank you.
So next, I'd like a motion to vote on whether to release the redacted minutes from the 11/6 executive session meeting as well as the Copeland and Page memo that goes with them.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 400.
Should I can make some explanation of the comment. So the redactions are consistent with the memo, so that's why we're releasing the memo with the redaction. They essentially address attorney-client privilege and some references to the complainant. But basically, the rest of the minutes will give you sufficient information. And the redaction's gonna take a couple of days, is that?
Yeah, so that's a good point, David. So because we wordsmithed, very minor wordsmithing, I might add, on the minutes, we now need to have Copeland and Page go back through and do the redactions again. That was done by Lauren Goldberg. So Jim is gonna coordinate that with Copeland and Page. I would guess that'll take a couple of days, and then we will release the redacted minutes and that memo as expeditiously as possible. Fair enough?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, so that concludes our work for tonight. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn? Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye, 400. We're now adjourned. Thank you, Patrick. Good night, everyone.